Fans are eating restaurants across the country. Steve Samuels here for The Fight. I'm in Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter for the biggest DVD Blu-ray release party in the history of the world. We're going to interview the actors today from the movie, and then tomorrow the red carpet. Come check it out. I'm with Jason Isaacs.
That's true. I'm with Steve.
Before we get into Harry Potter, I want to ask you about one of my favorite series other than Harry Potter is Resident Evil.
Right.
Where are you in Resident Evil? Because I know you did something with that.
No, I did. The director and writer and director is a friend of mine. And I was shooting a film called The Tuxedo with Jackie Chan in Toronto, and they did a reshoot on the end of Resident Evil 1, which he had asked me to be in. I couldn't be in. They did a reshoot, and there were some doctors, some surgeons operating on Mila, and I am a surgeon with a mask and a hat on. That is my entire contribution. And I think I did a voiceover as well.
Now, in 2002, when you guys started shooting Chamber of Secrets, it was like 3 days after the first Harry Potter just was released, right? Did that create a new expectation of where this was going to go for you?
You know, it was just, it was a job that felt lovely. I'd initially wanted to turn it down because I just said yes to playing Captain Hook in Peter Pan, which I knew was a year, and it was a children's villain. It felt like very similar ground. And I thought about saying no, and all of my friends' children, and my nephews and nieces and godchildren, they all phoned up and begged me not to. And I'm so glad that they did, because it turned out to be one of the most enjoyable work things that's ever happened to me.
I've got two daughters. And yeah,
How old?
They're older now. They're 20 and 21 now.
Oh, okay.
But you have two little ones. Are they 6 and 10?
They're 9 and 6. Yeah.
9 and 6. For my kids, when they were that little, they loved Harry Potter, the books, the movies, and everything. Your character's kind of a mean guy.
Well, you don't have a story if you don't have some kind of antagonist, something driving the plot along. Although he seemed quite mean in Chamber of Secrets, but when Voldemort came along, it became pretty clear that what he was a guy who was terrified, and that's what made him act. Most racism is ignorance and fear, and he's a terrible racist, Lucius. I mean, you know, it's muggles and wizards, but you don't need to look too far to find the parallels in the modern world, and all these voices raised loud against immigration and mixing of races and stuff. And so that always comes from fear. And then Voldemort comes back, and he expects and hopes to take his place alongside Voldemort. Voldemort so roundly, completely rejects him, humiliates him, is contemptuous of him, that you understand that Lucius comes from total insecurity.
A lot of pain in insecurity.
Yeah, and that's what makes him such a bully. He was probably bullied by his own father. He bullies down the chain to Draco, and Draco, rather nobly, I think, breaks the chains at some point. You feel like Draco's going to be a better dad than Lucius was.
Are your daughters reading the books or watching the
My
movie?
9-year-old wanted to come to the premiere of the last movie, and I said, honey, you know, I wanted you to have read the books before you saw the films, and she read them like that. She read all 7 of them in a month.
Through this amazing experience, was there a particular scene that you can look at and say, that's something that I just really remember and I valued? Was there out of all the movies?
I remember my first day more than anything else. My first day was with Richard Harris, the late, great Richard Harris, who I was so in awe of. And he was very chatty and lovely to me. And I know his son, Jared, who's a magnificent actor, the bad guy in the new Sherlock Holmes movie. And we were at drama school together, so I said to Richard, I know Jared, and we were chatting about him, and he was telling me these great stories. And then we went to the set, and they called action, and Richard just suddenly drilled me with those eyes of his. And I felt incredibly exposed and vulnerable as Lucius Malfoy. He stared at me, and I thought, it's his line. Oh, is it my line? It's his line. What's going on? I felt, the world suddenly felt, you know, the sand felt shifty under my feet. And then he spoke. He'd been waiting and just making me nervous. And I realized this wasn't, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. This was a serious acting job.
You kind of thought it was going to be a little bit more...
I thought we were dressing up as wizards and witches.
Right.
You know, we'd wave wands around. It would be more like a medieval fair. But actually, the quality of the people around me and the amount of care and intensity they put into the work makes you do it too.
Lastly, you were one of the adults from the very beginning, and you saw these kids grow up.
It's questionable whether I was an adult from the very beginning. My wife would question that, I'm sure. But I know
You're one
what
of the
you're
older
saying.
people.
Yeah.
You certainly saw them grow up and turn into actors. What was that experience like? And were you, because you were kind of the character you were, could you interact with them offset, or did you?
Yeah, I'm still friendly with Tom, who's a really fine young man who plays my son. And, you know, Dan Rupert and Emma had a rather unique experience because all their scenes were together and they were together a lot, and I didn't have that much to do with them. But it's like having a nephew or a niece grow up. You know, I'd go back every year or two. It's like going for Thanksgiving at a family home, and every year they were 2 or 3 inches taller, and I would talk to them like they were the 12-year-old version of themselves, but they'd be 14. And then I'd talk to them like they were 14, but they were really 16. And you have to make the adjustment. It's tough as a grown-up to allow that to happen, and you get a sense of your own mortality. But they all grew into really fine, curious, humble, courteous people, and I think which is a tribute to their families and the family of the film set.
What an amazing series, amazing experience. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.